you want to implement the TPM, you have to have process, have a plan. The plan is done by the top management. The top management must have a commitment. So it announces a team. You have to form a steering committee kind of a team. So it forms a team to give introductory education campaign or workforce. Second step is educating all the employees. Third step is setting up of the TPM committee, working system, targets, etc. Fourth step is establishing basic TPM policies and goals. So any system you implement, you have to establish policies and goals. Master plan to be formulated and circulated. So that's a part of planning. Planning is nothing but 5W1H. What will you do? When will you do? Where will you do? And how will you do? So the 5W1H has to be done. Then you give a kickoff. You invite the stakeholders, define the problems, and work out a roadmap. Then implement. Implementation involves engaging with stakeholders and put plan into action. Develop autonomous maintenance program. So any company which wants to adopt TPM will start with autonomous maintenance. Improve skills of production and maintenance personnel. Skill improvement, I told you, through matrix, you educate them and you measure the improvement level using a matrix. Develop criteria for evaluation. So the criteria for evaluation can be a skill matrix, can be anything else, can be a 4-quadrant scale or anything else. Carry out mission certifications and set standards. Now I have to speak a little bit about this mission certification. The mission certification is done in 3 stages. Autonomous maintenance, step 3 certification, step 5 certification, and step 7 certification. 3 means cleaning, lubrication, inspection, and tightening. Standards are to be fixed. CLIT they call it. The CLIT standards you have to fix. The moment you fix it, the person start involving in fleet operations. The machine can be certified as step 3. Step 5, you have created other standards and started regular maintenance. So that will be step 5. Step 7 is educating person at a higher level. You can even make some dummy parts or even broken up parts of the machine or prototype of the machine and educate them how each and every part. For example, if you want to educate a person on a compressor, you make a small compressor and explain the purpose of prototype compressor, or you make a dummy compressor kind of thing with different parts and explain each and every part how it performs. So that's the way the step 7 certification is done. So basically, most of the companies are working on step 3 and step 5. Sustainability. You have to develop standard, develop operating procedures, sustain TPM. You can carry out audits just to ensure whatever standards you put in place are regularly being followed. The implementation team, you have to have a steering committee. You have to have equipment improvement teams facilitated by the management. So the steering committee has to steer all these things and to ensure the implementation is taking place successfully. As you can see, before TPM, we had breakdown maintenance, we had plant repair, and we had plant maintenance. Implementation of TPM. The breakdowns will be fewer, plant repairs will be there, plant maintenance will be there. We added 2 more things, predictive maintenance and autonomous maintenance. Autonomous maintenance forms a basis. It's a base. Based on autonomous maintenance, which in itself comprises of predictive maintenance and plant maintenance. You have reduced repairs and reduced breakdowns. So this is the emphasis on people. So autonomous maintenance and predictive maintenance will be the additional benefits which are going to take care of your equipment functioning non-stop. Now, when you institute any management system, you should have goals. The goal should be qualitative as well as quantitative. Let us look into qualitative things first. This improves working environment, it improves cross-functional teamwork, PPM increases worker satisfaction, PPM establishes maintenance standards, this improves machine availability, this increases number of suggestions, improves business performance, improve corporate culture and image. These are all qualitative improvements. You can have parameters to measure this quantitatively with a little bit of difficulty, convert each into a parameter and measure it. But the qualitative advantages are these. But if you want to measure a quantum effect, a quantitative benefits, number one, zero failures. Number two, MTBF, MTTR. This is mean time between failures, mean time to repair. Then idle time improves. Zero accidents, zero complaints, number of kaizens, number of trainings, cost reduction through energy savings, cost reduction through maintenance. The bottom part is very important. Each of these could be quantified. Continued improvement goals can be set up for subsequent periods. Suppose you achieve MTBF or MTTR this year as per target, you can stretch it to the next year to achieve make further improvements. And important thing is all the benefits can be linked to cost of conversion. That's very, very important. Finally, everything will have an impact on the cost of conversion. So I'm going to present you two case studies, which will be very interesting for you. These are the case studies which I work with. So happy to share with you. The first one is related to food processing industry. In this food processing industry, we started out with a OEE of 49.21. So before that, let me explain what is a OEE. Are you able to see this? Hello? Hello?
No, no.
No, we cannot see anything. We can hear you.
One minute. Because I'm switching the sharing. Are you
Yes,
seeing it
now we can see. Yeah, we can see now.
Okay. I'm showing you two examples. In an 8-hour shift, the total shift time available is 480 minutes. Let us say you planned a downtime. For example, lunchtime is 30 minutes. And you don't have a plan for unplanned downtime. Let us assume you are producing 180 parts during the 8 hours. Your ideal cycle time is 1.5 minutes per part, and you scrap about 15 parts in a day. These are all certain assumption figures. So you have 8 hours of production and 30 minutes downtime for lunch. There is no unplanned downtime. Total parts produced is 180. Your ideal cycle time is 1.5 minutes per part. You have a scrap of 15 parts. Now, what is the planned production time? It's nothing but shift length minus planned time, downtime, which is 480 minus 30, which is 450 minutes. Right? What is the operating time? Operating time is planned production time minus unplanned downtime. Since we don't have any unplanned downtime, it's 450 minutes itself. Now, what is the availability of the machine? Availability is operating time divided by planned production time, which means, for example, this machine is available 100%. So, machine is available with you 100%. And now we talk about performance. Performance is how the equipment is performing against its capacity. So in this calculation, use the ideal cycle time and the operating time to determine how many parts the machine can produce under ideal operating conditions. This formula is 1 divided by ideal cycle time multiplied by the operating time. So we find the capacity is 300. Simply by calculating the ideal cycle time and the operating time, we find out the capacity is 300. But actually the parts produced is 180. So even though the availability is 100, the performance is total parts produced by capacity, which is only 60%. Right? And we have some rejections. Rejection is total parts produced minus total scrap divided by total parts produced. So which is 92%. So 180 parts produced and the rejection is about 15 parts. So divided by 180 minus 50 divided by 180. So it is 92%. Now OEE, which is overall equipment efficiency, is a multiplication of availability, performance, and quality. Even though the machine is available 100%, the OEE is only 55%. I hope you are able to appreciate this, or you are also able to understand this. The OEE loss is taking place because of performance of the machine and also due to the rejects. Right? Can we discuss, if you can unmute, can we discuss what is our observation? Some of you can unmute and we can discuss on this.
Weight performance is only 60%.
So the capacity is 300, sir.
Okay.
You can see ideal cycle time is 1.5. They don't have any other unaccounted, unplanned downtime. Machine is also running at 440 minutes. They are producing only 180 as against 300, which means their performance is 60%. No downtime. Because they have 15 rejection, their quality is 92. And now if you multiply all the three, the overall equipment efficiency is 55%. Why it is so? Assuming
It is 55% because there is the effect of quality also which just comes in, because
correct,
a machine is supposed to produce parts which are good enough. That is why if you look at your quality thing, it's always total parts produced minus the scrap.
Okay.
So look at the net effective parts produced.
Let us take this is 0. Call it 0. So now what happens? Only goes up to 60%, right? Still, the equipment efficiency is only 60%. The best of the equipment efficiency achieved internationally, the benchmark is 85% plus. Should be 85% plus. Very important. Now I can tell you here, the cycle time is 1.5. Ideal cycle time is 1.5 minutes. You have 450 minutes available. So you can produce 300, but you are producing only 180. Why are you producing low? So you have to ask that question. It is only because there are unaccounted downtimes, small stoppages. We talked about 6 losses. You understand? Depending on the organization setup, depending on the manufacturing setup, there are stoppages. I can show you another example. This is one of our members who is also addressing this, who is also attending this seminar. The total shift time is 630 minutes. They have a planned downtime of 30 minutes. On average, 10 minutes unplanned downtime is taking place. So they produce typically 521 watts. The cycle time is 1 per minute. Scrap is 5 watts. Their availability is 98%. They have a performance of 88%. Quality of 99%. So how do they bridge their gap? Actually, their production varies. Sometimes it is 480 also. So let us take the lowest production, 480. Up down to 81.4. So they still have a gap of about 21%. So they can still go up by at least 15%. You understand how this helps us to understand the unaccounted losses. Any questions on this? Now let me go back to the presentation again. You are on this slide now. You're able to see this slide?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in this case study, kindly look into the original OEE of this industry. Equipment was only about 49.2%. So there were 4 major actions we had taken, which are listed in the box. By taking these 4 major actions, the OEE went up by 6%, 6.5%. By simple increase of the 6.5%, they could produce an additional of about 3.5 metric ton per day. Considering a contribution of 10 rupees per kg, this resulted in a monthly saving of rupees 8.75 lakhs with an annualized saving of 1.05 crores. They carried out a project just for 3 months to identify something, and still there is a scope for improvement. I told you 85% is what we can achieve.